Izzy.
Nice to meet you both. Thank you for having me. I'm so
Yes,
fitting Sunday.
I
Sunday.
know. Sunday vibes.
Oh,
We
Authentic author
appreciate you.
experience.
yeah,
It's
I'm the
so true.
same. I'm Erin.
Yeah,
I'm the
this is
one that
Aaron.
reached out.
Cool.
Aaron's the one who you've been talking to this whole time.
That's
Um,
me.
so we'll just give you a quick little thing. We're Cats and Books Club podcast. We hang out, we talk about our cats and also
Love it.
books. And most of it is kind of like fantasy book talk energy that Aaron ends up finding a lot of the books that we read and is like, "Hey, I want to read this." And I'm like, "All right, let's read it." So, it's
Fun.
been a lot of fun. But Aaron's the one who found your book and recommended it. So, this is very exciting for us to get to talk to you today.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. My cat has left the room. I couldn't bribe
Oh,
him into staying.
Oh, darn.
Yeah, he was like, no, no, no.
What's his
Out.
name?
Uh, his full name is Benvolio, but he gets called Bubba mostly.
Oh, so cute.
that is
The
so
Benvolio.
vet
cute.
hates it. They're
I
like,
love that so
can you
much.
spell that?
It's like calling back
Call him Benny.
Benvolio.
It's fine. Yeah,
That's
no,
so
I doubt
funny.
he knows that his name is Benvolio. He mostly just gets called Mr. Bubs or Bubba.
Bubs, that's so
Oh,
sweet.
Yes, but he also does not like being on camera. He like knows when
No,
he's
I
on
get it.
and he's out. He's like, nah, my salary ain't high enough for this.
No, it's like as soon as you aim a camera at a cat, they're like,
Yeah.
get away from me with this thing.
it
Stop
is
looking at
funny.
Ew.
me.
Like you're
Yeah.
petting that? Ew.
Ow.
That's so funny. I wanted to bring up something special. Izzy, you know what this is.
Oh, yes.
It is our
Just
1 year
quick announcement.
anniversary of our podcast.
Yes. So thank you for joining us for this special
Yes.
time.
Yay. My gosh,
we
I'm so honored to be here on such a special occasion.
It's so exciting. Yes, thank you.
it's
Yeah.
Um,
been it's been so exciting. It's been a fun ride. It really has.
Yeah, and like, that you two can do it together. You're discussing stuff that you love. I just love that, while the internet can be a deep, dark, awful place, it
I
also
know.
is awesome because it brings people together. Things like this, and you can just talk about your hobbies.
Talk about your
Yes,
happies. That's so
exactly.
valid. Where it's like, yeah, we don't need to talk about anything else out here. Like, it's just good stuff. And like, we honestly, both of us, your book Halfling, did was full of big happies. Like, we thought it was so much fun.
Thank you so much.
That was the first book of yours that we read, that Aaron found. So we're looking forward to reading the rest of them soon. Definitely, we were talking about, Aaron was excited about the sequel, and I mean, I am too, of course, but I didn't even know until Aaron put that announcement. So I was like, that's sweet. I wanted to ask you, is it out yet already?
The sequel?
Yeah, yeah. Or
No,
when's it coming out?
it's coming out it's scheduled for August, late August.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's so
I'm
exciting.
wrapping up my current writing project, which is in another series that will be out at the end of March. And I'm giving myself quite a bit of time for Ironling. I have a feeling it will write itself very quickly. Halfling came out of me very quickly.
Yay.
Um, but I'm doing a big international trip with my mom in May. So
Ooh,
like
where are you
I'm
going?
expecting, oh, we're going to the UK. It's very exciting.
Yay.
Yeah, she's
Very
like never been out of the
nice.
country. So
Oh,
I'm very,
mom,
Oh
yay.
my
yes.
gosh.
We're
That'll be
going,
awesome.
yeah, she's like obsessed with the Book of Kells in Ireland.
Yes.
Interesting.
So we're gonna stay in Dublin, then we're gonna stay in close to the Trinity College where it's kept.
Oh,
And they
okay.
turn the page every day. So she wants to go see it every day we're there to see a new page.
That
That's
is
cute.
so
It's super cute.
neat.
The trip of a lifetime. I'm kind of expecting not to get anything done in May. So I get to give
Right,
myself
right. We're like,
quite a
we're
bit of
clearing the
time.
schedule. We're not even gonna
Yeah, like
try.
I'll kind of plot things out and get things going in April, but then actually get serious in June, July. So
Oh, that's
Absolutely.
exciting. It's such a busy schedule. Is it like
it
hard
is.
working on multiple stuff like at the same time?
I mean, like I'm wrapping up the one I'm doing now, and that will be out in March. Um, I tend to work on one book at a time. I'm not one
Yeah.
of those authors who can juggle. I think
I
I would
feel
just
like that would be
I
so hard. Yeah.
would be so hard. I definitely think like I know George R. R. Martin talks about one of the nice things about his books is it's not that it's a different book, but he has so many characters. If he's
Hmm.
struggling with one chapter, he'll just go on to another chapter. So I know some writers do it that way. They like having multiple projects because they can hop around if something's not feeling it.
Yeah, that
But
makes sense.
I think for me, I would spread myself too thin and I would just get like very distracted and never finish anything because
Right.
I have the attention span of a seagull sometimes. It needs to be shiny and I get excited about it to keep doing it. So one at a time, but I'm very excited to get started on Ironling. I have like, I know the general things of what's going to happen. Um, and like the plot arc. So it's, and you know, the nitty gritty, like day to day sort of things that happen in the chapters, like the smaller conflicts always kind of
Hmm.
come as you're writing. So I'm excited for that. But everyone's been so sweet and delightful with Halfling. I've just been blown away with how well it's been received.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah,
It
it's
was wonderful.
wild.
We had so
It was
much fun.
wonderful. I
Thank
actually
you.
discovered it. I think it was either TikTok or Instagram. I was scrolling one of those and I was like, huh, that sounds like a lot of fun. And I'm like, oh, look at the cover. That it like the cover kind of drew me in. I was like, oh, that cover art is really cute. And look at them looking at each other. And it was just honestly, it was this nice little gem of a book. And I was just so excited. I
I'm
was
glad
so
it was such
excited.
effective marketing.
It works. Thank God it works.
I know. It's nice to know that your money is being, you know,
You're
you
like,
can
Yeah.
throw your
I
money at
spent
marketing
so
all
much
you
on
want, but
those
can I
ads.
sure
They'd better be working.
yeah.
And
Literally.
I love the cover for the sequel. Like I love
Thank
that too.
you.
That
And like
is so cute.
Beth Gilbert is my cover artist, and she's in the UK,
Wow.
and it's probably good I don't know her address because I would just stalk her down and
Be
grab her
like,
big hug.
let me buy you something. Why
Yeah,
don't we
pretty
just
much. Because
buy you a
she's just so
coffee?
wonderful, and every cover she's done for me like has been like she tops herself, and I just
Just
don't
kick
know.
ass.
It's just how do you do this? She's so disgustingly talented.
I
And
totally
I'm
know.
so grateful I get to be her client because I know she's like I'm probably her smallest name. Like she
Oh
gets
wow. Yeah, everybody's
practically
like breaking
the
down her
biggest.
door.
Well, you know, she's been doing these special edition covers with oh shoot, I forget the name, but the you know, for SJM books,
Oh
Stephanie
really?
Meyer
Wow.
books. Oh yeah, like you
Interesting.
can get like 4 Beth Gilbert Akatar ones on Etsy,
That's so interesting.
Dang.
like licensed, all that. So
Wow.
I'm very lucky. I'm one of her little
That's cool as hell though.
peon authors that she works with. So I'm very happy that I jumped on that.
You're like,
Well, she
yes.
was still taking new clients because I don't think she is anymore.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. You're
Didn't
like, we
dang.
need
got in while
to.
the door was open. Thank God.
Exactly. Like I don't know what I do. She was too busy for me. So I'm very grateful, and she's so sweet, so lovely to work with, and I love working with artists and like all the artists who have like helped bring it to life, and it's just
That's
so
so
fun.
cool.
Getting art is so addicting.
I know, right? I
Painful
want to
on the
like
one.
look at all the fan art just to see. It's always interesting to me to see how other people imagine the same characters that I'm imagining a certain way. I'm like, huh, I would not have thought to make their hair look like that, but you know what? I get it. Like sometimes it's kind of fun to see like the variations and what people's brains create.
It was so
Aaron,
yeah.
did
Go
you have
ahead.
something?
Well, I was gonna say what inspired Halfling? Like what inspired this story of this
Oh, my cat's
this
yelling. Sorry.
orc and this very vivacious girl that kind of they just kind of smack into each other. What inspired that story?
That's the question. I get my ideas based on the scene. So, like, I'll be just driving somewhere or sitting doing something else. I'm like, a scene will just kind of come to me. It tends to be like in the middle towards the end. And then I kind of ask myself, okay, well then who are these people in this scene? How did this scene come about?
Mm,
What's gonna happen because of this scene? Um, Pretty sure the first scene from Halfling that came to me probably was the cave scene.
yeah, we
Oh,
got to start where the good stuff
uh,
happens and then work out
and
from there.
then we're like, okay, well, how did we get here? and then I just kind of knew that I wanted, he just was gonna have like the most tragic backstory, TM. Like how would
Happens. And then work out
and
from
then
there.
we're like, okay, well, how did we get here? And then I just kind of knew that I wanted, he just was gonna have like the most tragic backstory, TM. And yeah, just and like how would someone who is from this very brutal childhood not be a serial killer?
Right,
I watch
right.
a lot of true crime, like
Sure.
Me
Just
too.
being like, yeah, I
tends
know.
to be that trauma begets trauma. So how do
Right.
pretend like that didn't isn't gonna happen with him?
Mhm.
And I just kind of really liked the idea of putting someone very normal. Like to me, Sorsha's normal. Like she's
Right.
the normal person in this sort
Mhm.
of situation without it necessarily being like a portal fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I just always wanted to give a character Christine Daae hair, so it was perfect.
I love that actually. That's now that you say that, I immediately I'm like, oh yeah, it's like Phantom of the Opera hair. It's like it's big, it's poofy, it's so pretty.
Exactly, and I knew I didn't want her to be. I have a pretty big aversion to heroines who are not like other girls and
Oh
Oh
yeah.
God.
are
It's like we've
beautiful.
seen
Like,
this
and it's
so
one of those
many
things.
times.
Like, you can have a heroine who's beautiful, but it's just like that's been written before, and there's nothing overtly interesting about it.
Right.
Um, I mean, and like I think Sorsha is beautiful. Like, but I
Right.
just wanted to make her like, how can my heroine stand out? Like, we've had enough like
Literally with the red hair and the
red-haired, blue-eyed, which is incredibly rare, by the way. Like people with red hair and blue eyes, it's so rare.
yeah, it's
Even
like
within redheads,
this is
it's
not
just,
how
it's
normal people
just,
are.
it's not, and that's why like Bella Swan in Twilight was so popular, is because she had brown eyes and brown hair, and she was like everyone else.
Just
Why it worked.
just a girl.
Just
Like
a girl, like everyone could really like transpose themselves onto her. Uh,
right. Well, definitely that makes sense that that was kind of the key is like it was meant as like a put yourself here fantasy more than anything. Like, well, at
yeah,
Twilight, I mean,
yes,
like
100%. She was a very classically teenage girl. Um,
right.
so I definitely wanted Sorsha to be like not necessarily anyone, but very relatable to especially oldest daughters.
Are you one?
Yes.
No, actually, ironically, I'm an only child.
Oh my
That is so
god.
interesting because
You did it well
uh,
then. Sorry.
honestly, yeah, because I was reading it and as I'm reading it, I'm an oldest daughter. Um, and I'm reading it and I go, huh, this is kind of familiar. Okay, okay. And actually, I was thinking, well, the author has to be an oldest daughter.
Just
You
I
wrote
know
it
it.
am
really well,
very
seriously.
you. I was really trying, and like I'm very good friends with a lot of oldest daughters,
Mm,
and like growing up watching the labor that they had to perform
mm-hmm.
that was different from their siblings, and then like because I'm an only child, like the labor I do in my family is also different in that like they don't have other children, so I
Right.
did things that might be considered more of a boy child activity because I'm the only one they got. Like,
Right. They're like, hey, we
I'm the
need
one who has
help
to
and
chop
you
the
are
wood with my
here.
drum.
And you're
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Like I get to paint the house, I get to rake the leaves.
Right.
It's not just like domestic work. Which I think is interesting, and I'm always sort of thinking about how to play with sort of gender roles and like especially in like okay, yeah, we could just write another Tolkien-esque fantasy that's very based on medieval Europe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which is fine. Like it's tried and true and people love it for a reason.
Mm,
But it's fun to play with gender roles and like what people do. Like I didn't imagine the world of Halfling having, at least in her country, they don't have very strict gender roles or especially like inheritance. Out that inheritance is getting more important, which is, her friend in the next heroine act
right.
going to be
Right.
dealing with that a lot. That like there's this new cultural shift of moving towards sons or what you want. Um, but why when you have perfectly competent women?
Right.
That's so silly. Um, but yeah, so I would say like I think it just comes from a deep place of like looking at all of the labor that older daughters have to go through. Like they are the third parent, and it's just like
Yeah, just the
I
kind
just
of
my
boiled
sympathy for
in.
that.
Yeah.
It's so hard, and like there's definitely psychology to oldest children.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So diving into that, so it was kind of a
No,
love
we
letter to
love
all my
that.
friends who were thank you, a love letter to all my friends who were oldest daughters.
Hmm. Well, it makes
It
the character so believable. Sorry, Aaron.
Yeah, no, you're fine. It actually made me think it made me think of your mom. That's
Yeah,
entirely
right.
who I was thinking of because
Yeah, we're cousins. Did we
yeah,
mention
we're
that? I
cousins.
can't remember
Yes,
that.
yes,
So
yes.
yeah. And her mom is the oldest daughter. And I
Mhm.
feel like when I was reading about Sorsha, and we get to the part where Sorsha is finally they're back at home and they're trying to kind of um settle in at home with this sort of new romantic dynamic. And Oryx coming into this family as a completely new person. I loved as I'm reading about Sorsha's duties and everything she's doing, and she's running herself ragged on this farm. Exactly who I was thinking of was his mom, and I was just like, "Oh, this reminds me of stories that Rowena has told me that happened to her."
Yeah, I
And I'm
mean,
like,
and a big
"Oh,
family is like big in the same way that her family was like there were like 8 kids. Yeah, and so it's true that you can see that. And then the interesting part is when you connect that with Oryx absence of family completely. I liked the very stark contrast that you chose for them.
mhm.
Yeah,
Me
like
too."
I didn't want her family to be evil or that you hate them sort of thing. They're dysfunctional
Right.
as are
Everyone's
most
family is
families.
dysfunctional. So
Yeah,
it's like
like
that's
they're just their
relatable.
own. Yeah, they're not violent. They're not
Right.
horrid
Mhm.
like his family. But yeah, because I think there is, I think, a bit of a
I'm sorry, the cat is
I'm
appearing
sorry, we have
oh
a
outside.
guest.
yay! At
I'm
least we get
sorry.
one.
This is
Yay! Oh, how
Aquila.
pretty!
You are
Oh, she's so
interrupting. You're
pretty.
interrupting the interview. Why are you doing this?
I'm
She's like,
important.
she's like been down here. Like, she's probably like masking parts of the interview because you're purring so hard. I am so sorry. Oh my God.
No, I
What
can't
are
hear
we
it. I
doing?
think we're
I
What
okay.
are
have
we
I
doing?
haven't heard
Okay.
it. No,
Well,
she's
But
been
yeah,
incognito.
back to but back to Oryx.
anyway, sorry.
Tragic backstory. Like it was interesting how the orcs in general, as like a culture, are very like they're two very diverse viewpoints of like there's the violent side and then the yeah no but we're capable of great loyalty and love also just like
Mm-hmm.
any human being. It's like
Mm-hmm.
nice that it's humanizes them.
Mm-hmm.
Because I definitely I think most authors, at least I hope, are very aware of how racially coded orcs and
Mm-hmm.
halflings are, especially from
Yes.
D&D.
Yes.
In Tolkien, they're just insert bodies here, like evil,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and when you think below the surface of Lord of the Rings, like, okay, did they just go and genocide all the orcs? Like, what did they do? Like, it's not that big
Right.
sort of thing. So it opens a big can of worms. And I think monster romance has very much been trying to, in very interesting ways, play with that. So I think a lot of times, like, I know I try and think of ways to take it out of like they're not evil because they're orcs sort of thing. And like
Right.
put a couple sprinklings in there that they are sort of a weird, they're a branch, they're a splinter group. They're
Mm-hmm.
not normal for orcs. I have a couple future plot ideas where we do look at more orcs and what's a bit more normal for orc society.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not as isolated as his clan is. Um, and like what sort of happens in an environment that is isolated from other
Mm.
people. Like it very much is sort of a culty vibe
Mhm.
with this plan.
Mhm.
Very insular, and what happens in one of these groups when it's just violent and horrible is everyone
Mm-hmm.
else comes that way just to survive. And how do you
Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from with that. Well, an interesting thing that I was thinking about the orcs also is that, so I am trans, and we should have said pronouns, but mine are he, him, um, they, them, but or he, him. But basically, I can also project being trans onto being of orc descendants because once I mean, not it, basically, it becomes, do you pass in public? What are the consequences if you don't? That there is always a danger at not being able to pass in public in an environment that is very anti. And so you kind of see some similarities between, like, or at least I saw some similarities in the way like that Oric was treated amongst the humans and the way a lot of like trans kids and people are being treated just out in the wild, that it's like everybody's got their goggles on, they're like, do we see them, where are they at, and it's like, leave them alone.
uh,
You know, I actually thought about that. I didn't think about that until you brought that up, Isa. That's yeah, yeah.
that's very a great reading. I definitely had the sort of and the sort of weight of someone having to pass. Like that's just the
Right.
weight, and it's not fair. It's
Mm-hmm.
not fair that they have to do that when it's not their fault. It's not like their prerogative, or like
Right,
it's
it's like they
making
look the
others
way they look, they
comfortable.
are who they are, you
They are
can't,
who they are.
like,
Like
trying to hide it is, yeah.
exactly. So, and it does come from to like thinking about a lot of light skinned African Americans and that anxiety of being
Mm-hmm.
able to pass, especially in the turn of the century. There was a lot of very interesting literature and books written. I think there was a movie recently, like it was in black and white, in like 2019, about passing, and it's sort of become transcended from race now to gender identity in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and it's always this sort of topic, and as someone who I was an English major in college, so
Awesome.
this is predicating all of my references here. I always think about like sumptuary laws in ye olden times.
Mm-hmm.
You think about in Shakespeare, men were playing the women.
Mm-hmm.
There were also, very interestingly, a lot of plays by his contemporaries of female characters cross-dressing, dressing as men, which was
Mm-hmm.
just there was a lot of anxiety about that, especially because you had Queen Elizabeth, who was a woman in a man's position. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of anxiety about that, and it's just so interesting that like the clothes make person. So like if you can't, like the clothes will literally transform this woman to a man, sort of thing, and that's why we can't let women wear the man's clothes, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
So like I
Right, that
definitely have a lot
fear
of
of like, oh
yeah.
no, if they have the same power we have, we won't have any power anymore. Oh no.
That, and like I can't look at you and know what you are, and that's very
It's so threatening to some people.
threatening. Yes, but
Yeah,
then
that
again, maybe
like they
that's their
can't. Yeah.
problem. It's not your problem, sort of thing.
Exactly.
But society is fun. So I definitely like have those sort of thoughts
I
going
mean,
around
it's
my head.
cool, yeah, calling attention to that in your
Yeah,
books and like including that because it's like it's writing a book is hard and being able to like play with all of these hard topics and like sort of challenging people is an art, and I think you did a great job, like it
so
was
much.
really like a solid piece of work and we loved it. I'm trying to see if there's what other questions do we have.
Where did
um
where did the raccoon sidekick come from? Because that was one of our questions, and I was like, "Oh, where did the little baby come from?"
I know we did love
So
him.
I know Darrah's the real main character of the book.
We
So
love him.
he's so cute. It was a raccoon, because I've always loved raccoons. My father, growing up, his neighbors had a raccoon for a pet. Like they rescued him as a baby.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah. And that
Amazing.
was my
It's from a real story.
yes. His name
That's
was
awesome.
Herbie.
Amazing.
My grandmother and my father always told me stories about Herbie growing up. He was kind of my grandfather's or my grandmother's nemesis because he always got into everything.
Right.
She said they one of their houses growing up was on an orchard, so they had like orange trees. And she was going to the farmer's market to like take some oranges to sell, and she just walks in the house and here's Herbie with both arms. He speared oranges down his arm, just eating them.
Oh
Like
my
this little
God.
turd. Like, you know, I've always just had this like in my imagination, just how cute these like little scamps are.
They're
Just
so good.
It's
they're
hilarious.
just so cute, and I love them. And they're not good pets.
No. Little
They're not meant for us.
terrors.
They're too smart for us.
Yes,
So part of
literally.
it was it's a raccoon because of that. It's like an homage and to like
That's
my
amazing.
growing up on those stories. And then I also like
Cute.
he was sort of this decision that, like I said, you know, when I think I'm not alone in writing like this, that a lot of authors have overarching big thing like this needs to happen. This is the plot, but like when you get down to writing chapters, what actually happens? And by the time I'd gotten to where he's introduced, I was definitely thinking something needed to happen to prove to Sorsha that he can be trusted.
Mm-hmm.
And so like enter baby animal stage left.
Yeah, right.
That he takes care of. And like I wanted him to sort of have a little buddy and like, oh well, if I do end up having to leave her with her family, at least I'll have my little
My
fur
little
baby.
guy, yeah.
So yeah, just really having an animal sidekick, I think it lent some happiness to it.
Yeah, it was a nice little bit of comic relief in a
Yeah.
situation that was like really stressful for both of the main characters.
Yeah. So mostly it was he can take care of a baby animal. Like he doesn't just like pop it in his mouth for a snack.
Right. He's like, no, I'm not gonna eat this. Like, yeah. Yeah.
Or like
Where she's like,
Mercy
oh,
Pillow
okay, he's
or
good.
something, you know, he like takes care of the baby. And especially since knowing that like, okay, well, he's gonna be like bonded to you by the time he's healed. So this is now like you can't release this raccoon back into the wild.
Right. Like
Oh,
this
you're
this raccoon
responsible.
is your raccoon forever because
Yeah.
you've taken it. Like
100%. So you know,
yeah, I
the
really
house that they built really
love
is
that.
all raccoon. Like I
I
just
love
imagine with a little raccoon high chair, a little raccoon
oh
perch.
my God, so cute. I know his little basket was adorable.
I know. And I loved that family that they met kind of at that farm that kind of brought them together a little bit more and kind of forced them to realize like, oh, wait a minute, maybe we do love each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a
It's
cute.
important to like because you
Yeah.
always want to ask, especially like romance novels definitely rely on, if not the mate bond, the trauma bonding.
Yep. Yeah.
So I
Often
think
both.
sometimes to create an even more believable love story narrative, it's always good to take your characters out of the trauma. Like what is daily life like? Do we actually like each other? Like doing chores? Which is why like slice of life
Right.
stuff is one of my favorites because I just like seeing like I would love to go to the grocery store with two characters sort of thing.
Right. See like how that goes, how that
Yeah,
plays out.
yeah. Like I know two, you know, kick-ass people are gonna, you know, trauma bond, but can they get past that? Because sometimes you read a book and you're like, oh, I was so fascinated and like I loved them together in the trauma, but like would they actually last?
Right.
Not
You don't have that reassurance. Yeah.
of glass. Sorry.
No,
you're allowed to cough.
we literally did
Well,
read like at least 5 or 6 of Throne of Glass, and we're still working on it.
We're still working on
And
it.
we wanted to talk to you about it.
God. Oh my God.
Mostly because on
God.
we did watch that other interview that you did, and you were like, no. And we were both just like, I feel so vindicated because I have personally I have been screaming my way.
Like, yeah.
I
Yeah.
will say I have not read a lot of SJM. I attempted to read the first couple of each of her series, and it's just not for me.
Yeah,
And I fully understand why she is beloved. And
there's definitely a lot of action.
yeah, 100%.
It
And
never stops. Like
I
it
am
just keeps
someone
going.
who, yeah, and like I think that works really well. Alana Andrews, the author Alana Andrews, like her books are really high octane like that too. Um,
Interesting. We'll have to
uh,
check that out. Honestly, I'm
oh yeah,
curious.
her. Oh shoot, what is it called? I'm looking right at them, but I can't. It's a trilogy. Um, not the real super long one, not the Kate Daniels one, her other one. Really, really good. But very much like characters being pulled to and fro, like from one situation to the next. I find it very like mentally exhausting.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
As
Yeah.
a
Yes.
reader, as an author, I just don't, and I don't overly like. I read a lot of what I like to write, which is tends to be less angsty, which is
Right.
ironic if you've read the duet. My other book, Airy, which is the first of the duet, is just nothing but angst.
Wow. I want to read it.
I was reading it in a different place in my life. It started as my grad school thesis.
Oh wow.
Oh, that
That's
is
an
so
interesting
cool.
context though.
That
Yeah.
is so cool.
Yeah, it was really neat. I had a great time in grad school. They definitely were not thrilled that I decided to write a fantasy novel, but
You were
I
like,
love it.
sucks.
I was just
You
like,
were like,
well, I'm paying a lot of money and devoting a lot of time,
mhm.
and I don't want to write a book that I don't care about. So,
Well, that's definitely for
Absolutely.
sure. Yeah.
and I do think that's kind of why I come from writing like I do, is I am from a more academic literary fiction background. I don't read or write literary fiction outside of academia.
Oh, okay.
I like it. But literary fiction is very interested in like the human experience and how the smallest things can be absolutely devastating.
Mm.
So like more everyday experiences like being lied to,
Hmm.
or like how a relationship just ends because someone didn't take out the trash, sort of thing. Like
Yeah, for
we've been
sure.
like this resentment's been building for 4 years or something, and like
Hmm.
he didn't take out the trash, so it's over, sort of
It's
thing.
over. Right.
It's relatable because that's we all go through that because it's normal, and I like to infuse my stories with that sort of thing, which is why I think my books get accused of being too long and nothing happening, which I agree with to a certain extent. You're correct. I mean, there is a whole chapter in Airy. She's just chopping firewood.
So it's fine.
Well, that's
There's a
it.
lot of thoughts go through
She's
your head
having
when you're in the
an
middle of
internal existential crisis while she's chopping wood.
right.
So,
Like it's about the
I
internal,
love
not
it.
the external when it
That's
yeah,
comes
right.
to yeah.
That's
character
right.
driven versus plot driven. And
Which I
Hmm.
so,
don't know. I prefer it because if the characters aren't believe, I'm like I don't care what happens to them,
Hmm.
but like you make people care about the characters because you show
Hmm.
them as being like actual human beings with like flaws and like not like ridiculous flaws, but like normal human issues that happen, and we're like, oh yeah, I can relate to this, I can relate to
Hmm.
that, and it's like that's really hard, and I haven't seen that much of it so far.
Yeah, we've been,
it's
yeah.
hard because I think there is a lot of anxiety for authors writing main characters with flaws, especially female characters.
Hmm.
Because if you give them a flaw and they're even slightly unlikable, a lot of people hate them. I mean,
Hmm.
even if you look at Akatar, um, people seem to be fairly middle of the road about the first sister main character. Um, People have very strong feelings about loving and hating
Nesta.
one because she
Nesta.
is, yeah, bitchy main character.
We're gonna
I would
have
argue
to,
that's better
yeah.
because she's an actual, she has, whether or not she's forgivable, I don't care, that's
Yeah, I mean
neither
that's not really
there.
the
She's more
point.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
the discourse that I keep seeing. Now we've only been on Throne of Glass. We haven't made it to Akatar yet, but that is the
It's on the
discourse that I
list.
see on literally every single like TikTok, Facebook, all the things. Everyone's like, I hate Nesta. And I'm like, I want to read these books now, literally just for Nesta, because I want to see if you're kind of just completely rude and ridiculous about it. I think they get really super offended about Nesta. And
Yeah.
I'm like, this seems completely kind of out of the blue for just a random character that to me seems
like what is triggering them?
like what is triggering people. Like I'm just curious. I don't have any insight because we haven't even made it to those yet. But yeah, from what I've seen, yeah.
I haven't read them either. It's just, being on Bookstagram, you see the art, you see the plots and the quotes. Like I've pieced together quickly what
Yeah,
happened.
like yeah.
And it's a similar sort of thing when you look at, for example, Ruby Dixon's IPB original series. A lot of people, especially in the early days, had either loved or hated the second heroine, Liz, because she's loud and she's kind of bitchy and she fights the relationship at first.
Mm.
And especially if you look at the early reviews, like people are it's very hit or miss versus the first main character who's a sweetie, basically. So I think there definitely is a say for authors to err on the side of caution, make the main character likable. However, if you ask people who their favorite characters are in well-known series, challenge anyone to find someone whose favorite character is Harry Potter, Frodo. Like it's not. It's
It's
not.
not.
It's the
No.
side characters who are
Nobody cares. Yeah, like literally.
because that's where the author feels that they can like take chances. So it is kind of this push and pull. But from what I've read, the writing style of SJM is not to my taste personally. It's just very dramatic and and like a huge investment, and I'm just like not place.
Right. It's hard. Yeah.
Commit. Um, I do think if I was going to read anything, I'd probably read her Crescent City books because those seem to be more up my alley. Last one was 800 pages.
Oh my
Tell me about it.
God.
It's very
Like,
long. And to be fair, like Tolkien was writing 800-page books, but that's because every 30 pages, Aragorn needed to stop and sing about a tree.
Right.
So I don't think that's happening.
That's so true. Yeah, you're like,
actually,
this is all just
theory.
That's really funny because
it's true.
Like, it's true though, because like I saw a meme the other day that was like Legolas in the movies, and it was like, he was so serious and blah 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 blah. And it was like Legolas in the books, and it's him just like skipping around in a field, like singing about like something random. I don't even know. Like I don't even remember, like a river or something. And I don't know. It did strike me as funny because I was like, that's how it really was in the book. He was very kind of like him and Aragorn.
Yeah.
Like him and Aragorn both were kind of silly.
Yes.
They were kind of
silly little guys on a silly little quest. Yeah.
Honestly, that's so true. They were all silly little guys on a silly quest. Gandalf, silly little guy.
I know Gandalf was the mom of the group.
Right.
That's why everything went to hell when
he's like, well, mom's dead, so good luck with that.
Peace out. I'm gonna take a break.
Y'all are all right. That's so funny.
But yeah, and to be fair, like it works in Lord of the Rings because Tolkien absolutely breathes his worlds.
Yeah, he did.
He was such a nerd. I love it.
We do love it.
He wrote the W section of the dictionary.
Like, I did not know that fun fact. That's cool.
Yeah, because he was a professor of Anglo-Saxon history and literature, and he was a linguist. Most of our W words come from Old Norse.
Okay,
so
interesting.
Yeah.
He's like, we're just taking the chunk, and there.
And the more you learn about him and like his interests, you're like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, that makes sense.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, literally.
Like,
It's like,
All
oh,
of
he
it.
made his own language. Of course he did.
He made the language first. He actually like wrote the language because it
God,
was so annoyed by how English developed. Like it didn't develop
that is
as a linguist.
amazing.
So Elvish is how he thought a language should develop. And then he made the world around.
What?
Oh my God.
That's
He
dedicated.
was
I think
insane.
it was the level and like the fact that his son devoted his life to like curating his, it's just the amount of work is just, and I do think that with a lot of fantasy authors, they think they need to have that level of detail and dedication. And I don't think they do. That I think that is one
No.
reason why SJM is so beloved, is she does obviously live and breathe her worlds.
Right. Which
They're
like
very
we do
alive to her.
appreciate that
Yeah, world
dedication.
building. Like
Yeah.
books are that long because of the world building.
Mm-hmm.
So I can 100% respect and appreciate that. You know, George R. R. Martin obviously loves some world building.
Yeah.
He sure does.
It
He
sure
sure does.
does.
I mean, I personally love that right, the prequel series on HBO now, House of Dragon, is basically from, he writes these side books as if he was a historian in the world. And they're like shorts that get published, and
Interesting.
they're not like plotted or anything. He's like this old historian in the world, like documenting, like, oh, this is what happened. You know, like if you read an old chronicle of history, it would sound like that. It doesn't have plot and dialogue.
Here's what happened. You want to know what
Pretty
happened
much,
here?
yeah, it's very dry. A lot of critics are like, oh my God, like it's just a self-indulgent blah, blah. It's like, yeah, it is. But guess what? It sells because some people love it.
It's
Some
like
people love Elvish. So,
it's like
you know,
it's like, look, he is allowed to be self-indulgent. Okay, the man is like in his, I don't even know, I think he's in his 70s, and I'm just like,
yeah.
dude, you write whatever you want, honey. You write whatever you want.
So honestly, I do think that letting them do the Game of Thrones series was a test run to see if his ending would go over well, and I don't know, he might.
I don't think it did.
It did.
Would not recommend. But yeah, so I definitely think like that is one reason why SJM is so beloved, and like power to her. Like my parents are very supportive, but like my dad especially doesn't really read my books, and he was seeing I figured out after the fact that he was referencing SJM on her, you know, late January press junket that she was on. He's like, oh yeah, I saw an author around your age, and she seems to be doing pretty well.
You're
Yeah,
like,
Dad.
oh, that author.
Yeah, I would love a fraction of her success.
Right.
Oh,
Hey,
I love him.
we're out here. We're gonna help you get to that because
I
honestly,
appreciate it.
well, there are just, you know, Izza and I, we talk a lot about that too, how we're trying to, you know, we do read traditionally published authors and books, but we also have been finding a lot of these just hole in the wall, like indie authors
I
that
mean,
are
you're
trying
not
to.
one of those hole in the walls, but
No,
like
you're
we
not.
do look for
But
some
like,
that are,
Oh, I
yeah.
don't
but
know.
like,
I'm pretty.
well, we find these authors who have been, you know, advertising their book on Facebook or advertising through TikTok or Instagram, and we find them, and we've been trying to reach out to more indie authors who want to be on the show because we do think it's important to give everybody a chance to give these books a platform because your book was amazing. Like we loved this book. I told Izzy, I said this is probably one of the best books we've
It literally
read
is.
on the podcast so far. And
It's like finally.
it was just, folks were like, yes, this is what we've been looking for. This is the book that we've been looking for because like, you know, like I said, we've been reading Throne of Glass, and quite frankly, it's been a slog.
It's so long.
I mean, no offense to her or anything, but I mean, those books could have been about 300 or 400 pages shorter.
Yeah, every single one like really could have. But it's like, hey, why not? You're just going around the worlds, just checking it out for 800 pages. You're getting the tour, like
Yeah, I know.
The grand tour.
I also get that criticism of my books.
Really?
I do. Oh yeah. I
Really?
try not to go on Goodreads that much because Goodreads is mean.
oh.
Goodreads, people are mean on there about like literally every book. They're just
Yeah.
mean. Like,
I mean, if your average rating is like 3.8 or less, is your hobby just shitting on people? Like, is that actually, it's not reading, it's actually just shitting on people.
Right. Just being a jerk.
But again, Goodreads is not an author space, it is a reader space.
it's a reader space. Yeah.
I also go there to, especially because I'm from academia and like I have a master's degree in creative writing. I am used to sitting in workshops and getting my work trashed. It's not, I highly doubt anyone's going to make me cry because I've had really amazing writers who I respected the hell out of make me cry. So
Oh,
a random person
like,
on
I
the
don't care
internet's
about y'all.
probably not going to make me cry about it.
Mm-hmm.
I will get very salty about it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when I'm told my books are too long, but then the same person say that an 800 page novel is perfect, but fine.
Yeah, you're like,
But
you know what?
really, their heart's not there. It's about vibes. It's not about, unless you're in the literary fiction space, it's not really about the writing quality or much else. It's about how the book made people feel. And obviously, she's got some secret sauce because people feel a type of way about the books, and that's a-okay. But yeah, I don't go
You're
on
just
good
like,
that
I'm
much.
trying to
When I do,
understand.
yeah,
Trying to understand.
when I do, I get my feelings hurt on Goodreads. So
Right. No,
we
I
don't
feel
go. These
like
authors don't go there very.
I believe that. So Aaron, don't go on Goodreads.
No, don't go. No,
No.
I won't.
Well, and
I won't.
Goodreads are not. They don't have to be verified purchases. Like anyone.
Oh yeah, anybody can just lie
Just
like about
yeah,
anything.
exactly.
But what baffles, I think, irks me the most is people who do DNF reviews.
Did not finish reviews. Oh.
Like, I don't understand the point. Do you think that the book shouldn't be read at all? This sort of Goodreads to me has a sort of vibe of early, especially since it looks like an early 2010s website still.
That's fair.
It feels like early 2010s Facebook when we were all still writing our statuses as just like random things we felt, as if it mattered that like we were going and getting food today, like
Yeah.
listening to this song and like it was blowing our mind. Like it has that sort of vibe that like, oh, I'm just gonna write down my feelings and put it into the ether of the internet. To me, I was just like, okay,
Okay.
wasn't helpful to anyone, but okay. I mean, and again, it's the reader space and it's valid, but it is also like
You're like, I don't know what you want me to get from this.
like I don't. All right. What was the point? There isn't one, and that's okay too.
There isn't one.
Which is why again, Amazon. One of the most important things to support any author, indie or otherwise, is an Amazon review, not a rating.
Ah, yeah.
Review. Yes, because that's all they care about.
So everybody read Halfling and go rate it, and all your
On Amazon.
other work. We'll put links to it. Is
Absolutely.
there anything you want to plug for everybody listening?
Yes.
Aside from
I know
everything?
everyone's super excited about Ironling, which again is book 2 of it's. You're gonna see some familiar people. You're gonna see some new people in it, and it's coming in August. But before that, we have Heart Song, which is the first full novel of my War of the Underhill series, which started with
very exciting.
So it's my first foray into PNR, which has been kind of fun.
What's PNR?
Paranormal romance. Sorry.
Aaron's favorite.
Cole.
Yeah, my favorite.
Nailani Singh, Thea Harrison, all the good stuff. So, and there's a huge debate right between what's PNR and what's urban fantasy, and the
interesting. That's so. These are all things I have not heard the discourse on yet. So, Aaron.
Oh, if you ever just want to, troll, just go into a Reddit and say that, this
just say some controversial
and just watch all the people who believe that it's an urban fantasy.
Oh no. Oh no.
That's hilarious. I love being
terrible.
Start
an internet fire.
Oh my god, that's so much fun.
That cracks me up.
So Heart Song's coming at the end of next month. I'm excited for it.
Next month being March, yes.
March 29th.
I was like, what month is it?
I don't. Time is irrelevant. and a human construct.
It's very difficult. Time is meaningless.
I don't believe that it's February. I don't believe that it's 2024. I don't believe that we're in an election year.
Oh God, I also have been
honestly
in
think it's
denial.
2020. Like this should be like maybe 2020.
I know, it just feels like so many years have passed and you're like, where have I been?
I know.
Still
I
here.
honestly think we should all be able to subtract 3 years off of our ages because of the
Literally.
pandemonium.
Yeah, just like the lost years just
Yep.
disappeared.
Like nothing happened. I think we should get those years back. Reset. But yes, so Heart Song's coming out next month. I hope everyone likes it. It's been a very interesting like writing a story in the modern world versus in a fantasy.
That'll be interesting to see. Yeah.
Yeah, because I get to rely on modern words and slang, and I don't have
Right.
what was that stupid piece of horse armor called again? And like Google.
Right. No, I literally can only imagine.
Oh, there's a lot of horse armor. And just did they have this in like medieval times? Like, is it like it's fantasy, but you want to like be within the realm of possibility? So, like, did they have
Right.
this?
There's so much like background research that you have to have, kind of like, oh no, what kind of wagon is this supposed to be historically
100%.
accurate? Oh,
And like, what's the difference between a wagon and a cart? There's a
right.
difference.
Yeah, like, would it be a wagon or would it be a cart? Because there's always people in the comments. There's always people in the comments.
There's always.
always. And there's a certain amount of diction, so word choice you really have to pay attention to with fantasy, especially when you want to give it a mood. So using words that aren't too anachronistic. That's complete, like you don't want to sound pretentious and too Tolkien like unless that's what you're going for.
Right.
You also need to not make it too modern sounding. People don't like it.
I know, they get so bad.
So if you got to pick your slang, you got to pick your what euphemisms you can use. So
right,
I can do whatever I want in PNR because I have the modern English language at my disposal.
Right. I'm excited for the sequel. Man, we have to wait till August is a
I know.
We have to wait.
And to be fair, I know I probably should have just started it writing Ironling, but I wanted to get Stonehearts done so that people would stop leaving me reviews on Stonehearts because it's a prequel novella and everyone seems very angry that it's a prequel novella and the story doesn't end. So
you're like, all right, shut up.
I'm mostly writing this out of spite.
Right. That's the best
reason. It continues, and here's book 2.
Fucking take it.
My precious little novella.
No, that's so funny.
No, I love it though. This is so exciting, and
thank you for coming on and talking to us.
And letting me rant and rave, and
we love it.
We like it.
On.
We love it. No, we found this book, and I actually gave it to as a like birthday gift. And
yeah, I got the hardback, so it's fancy.
And I was like, hey, like we should read this for the podcast. And we just honestly, we loved these two so much. And their super journey, sweet. The action was great. Honestly, for everybody listening to this podcast.
No notes, honestly.
Like if you have not read any of S.E. Wendel's books, go buy Halfling, go read it, go review it, leave an Amazon review. It was amazing.
Look at the Goodreads.
Don't look at the Goodreads.
Don't write any Goodreads bullshit. No, I'm kidding. Well, thanks again, and we won't keep you too much longer, but is there anything else that you have to... No.
I've got a special edition of this book, The Duet Haven. That's coming out next month too. There's been some new merch.
Oh, there's new merch.
New merch. I know I had a sad lack of Halfling merch. That was an oversight on my part. Halfling came out, so now we've got prints. We've got Darrah stickers. I just got the stickers today.
Yes.
Stickers.
Where can we get those?
on my website, which is sewendelauthor.com, and the shop is /shop.
Awesome.
You can also check out all the art I've gotten commissioned, like all of it. Oh, little kitty tail.
I
Kitty
know,
tail.
sorry. She started like sniffing my microphone too. I don't know what she's
She's
doing.
such a loaf. Look at her little dumb face.
It's just been too long without being the center of attention.
She's like, excuse me.
She says, "Excuse me, this is the Cats and Book podcast."
Exactly.
Cats
There's been
first.
a lack of cats in this interview.
It's fair. Well, that's exciting. We will put all those links in the
Absolutely.
show notes so that people know where to find it. Thanks so much again.
Absolutely.
This was so much
Ew.
fun, and we're
This
looking
was so
forward to
much
reading
fun.
the next one.
Absolutely. Thank you
were
so
lovely.
much.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate
Thank you so much.
Have a good rest of your Sunday.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.